So before we get started, we'd like to introduce ourselves first. So my name is Chuong Nguyen. I'm a fourth year student at the College of Hospitality with an emphasis in lodging.
Good morning, everyone. I am Bianca Louise del Castillo, and I'm taking my master's degree in hospitality management. And I have my emphasis is in the lodging industry. And for today, we are honored to present here in front of you. So we did a market analysis, and most of our data come from CoStar and STR. And we also look into other sources to know more about the market and to support our analysis. So for our presentation, we will cover the following sections. We will start from knowing more about the performance of Inland Empire, and as we conclude our presentation, we will present our recommendations for our stakeholders. To start off, Chuong will present how Inland Empire is performing today.
Absolutely. So we'll be starting by taking a look at the current statistics. So we'll start off by looking at room night supply and demand first. The market did a remarkable job of recovering to pre-pandemic levels in 2021, which is not something that a lot of other markets across the country can say. While demand percentage change from 2022 to 23 was slightly down, 2023's year-end demand was still a net 1.48 improvement, or 1.48% improvement over 2019. And the decline can be attributed to revenge travel diminishing after really driving most of the post-pandemic recovery. And this is a theme that we'll see throughout our analysis. Throughout the presentation, we'll be referring to these three KPIs on screen here. So in blue is going to be occupancy, green is going to be ADR, which stands for average daily rate, which is simply the room rate that's charged per room sold. And then RevPAR, you can think about it as a combination of occupancy and ADR, which shows us the rate that's charged per available room. So reflecting off of the supply and demand trend, ADR and RevPAR both surpassed 2019 in 2021. And as is the case with most markets across the country, it was really the strong ADR growth that led the recovery process. And we do want to point out to the right-hand side of the screen, showing that 2024 March year-to-date data shows occupancy hovering at around 65% as we're heading into the peak season. And we'll go a little bit more in depth about the market seasonality pattern in the later section.
Well, it is great to know that Inland Empire is performing well, but how does it perform to other markets, Chuong?
Yeah, so Orange County, Los Angeles, and San Diego are our neighbors, and they're doing pretty well at the moment. And that's partly because of how strong their destination, or their tourism destination brand is, because they attract a lot of domestic travelers, but also that international market. So as a result, Inland Empire's numbers might not look so competitive, but we want you to keep this in mind before we talk about how quickly these other markets have grown also. So the Inland Empire recorded the highest percentage change in both ADR and RevPAR in the year end of 2023 when we're comparing against 2019 numbers, and recorded only the second lowest occupancy loss out of the four markets, which is a really impressive feat when we discovered that Orange County, San Diego, and Los Angeles all rank within the top 25 markets in the country. And then in comparison to 2022, 2023's year-end percentage change shows a slightly different story. So as we mentioned before, a decline in occupancy from 2022 was likely the result of revenge travel diminishing. And at the same time, our nearby markets also have a larger visitor base to rely on to kind of recover. And that includes a larger international traveler base as well. And with revenge travel slowing down, we took a look at the airport traffic for some of the major airports. So the really good thing to find out about here is that the Inland Empire's international airports, such as Ontario International and Palm Springs International, both recorded year-on-year growth in 2019, 22, and 23. But at the same time, LAX, which is still the region's major international hub, hasn't yet returned to 2019 levels yet, but we're hoping that's going to change when the 2028 LA Summer Olympics hit, which will hopefully fuel demand for the entire region.
Well, thank you for the insights, Chuong. So it shows that the Inland Empire is performing strongly as it is recovered in 2021, and it is on a great start for this year already. And we also see that travelers are coming back to SoCal.
Yeah, that's all very correct. Would you be able to go a little bit more detail into how these numbers looked by the different hotel classes and submarkets?
Yes, absolutely. So we will first go through this by class, and for this one, let us now take a look of how each class performs. But we will now first look into the current hotel inventory of the market. So economy led in room count, having about 16,000 rooms. We can also see here that upper mid-scale and upscale makes up 1/3 of the market. And on the luxury segment, majority of them are independent hotels. For their 2023 performance, looking on the highest, upscale and upper mid-scale have the highest occupancy. Also, economy have the market share, however, they have the lowest occupancy among the segments. So let us see how this compares to 2019 and 2022 levels. We compared 2023 to 2019 level performance, and all segments have recovered. And we can see here that the recovery is driven by the rates. Again, upscale stand out as it is the only class with positive growth in occupancy. The lower tier segments are farthest to reach the 2019 levels.
All right, so it looks like what the data is telling us here is that the data reflects that people are more willing to kind of pay more money when they travel, and they tend to choose higher tier products.
Yes, you're right. And when we compare it to 2023 to 2019 level, the data shows that there is increase in upper tier products, and which include luxury and upper upscale, and there is a decline in the lower tier products.
Got it. And how do these numbers break down when we're looking by the submarkets that make up?
Okay, so now let's go through over the submarkets. So these submarkets are actually defined by CoStar, and we will be referring to the shortened version on the parentheses. There are 5 submarkets in the area. First in Ontario, where the International Airport and Ontario Mills is, and Fort San Bernardino, the Joshua Tree and the Big Bear Lake. Palm Springs, known for its resorts, where you can find the world's largest rotating tram and the Coachella is being held. Going to the south is Riverside, where Pechanga and Desert Hills is. Lastly, the Central, where the historic Michelin and Riverside Convention is located. Looking at the current supply for each of the submarkets, Palm Springs is the largest submarket in terms of room count, having over 17,000 rooms. It is where most of the luxury and upper upscale properties are located. For their 2023 performance, Central has the highest occupancy. So it is actually where the convention center is located. So this suggests that groups are picking up as they are coming back to the convention center. And Palm Springs, having the largest count for luxury and upper upscale hotels, it led the ADR and RevPAR. It is a submarket where it is known for the resorts, golf course, restaurants, shops, and the annual festival. And it seems that their performance responds to the market drivers and also with their market share. So let us now compare it to the 2019 level. Palm Springs still stand out, showing the highest improvement in rate and RevPAR. When we compare it to 2022, again, Palm Springs stand out, having a positive growth across 3 KPIs. This submarket continues in leading the growth as it has strong presence of market drivers attracting leisure travelers, and they have hotel options for travelers. They have wide hotel options for travelers who are willing to spend more. So another interesting observation is that Ontario had positive occupancy growth. And one of the factors for its growth could be what Chuong mentioned earlier, is that the increase of airport traffic is back.
All right, thank you, Bianca. So to recap, the Palm Springs submarket growth is a clear indicator that it is really the start of the market. And it seems like with mid-tier products like upscale and upper mid-scale leading in occupancy, and then coupling that with the growth that was experienced by the upper tier or the higher tier products. It again kind of supports our hypothesis that guests are coming back and they're willing to spend that little bit extra for a better experience when they stay here.
So now that we know how Inland Empire is performing, can you tell us more about the type of businesses coming into the market?
I would love to. So we'll start by looking at the travel patterns, and this is going to be occupancy by month. So the pandemic obviously disrupted the market seasonality pattern in 2020, which is in gray. But you'll see throughout the presentation that things picked up really quickly in 2021. And an interesting characteristic for the Inland Empire seasonality is that it's kind of the reverse of other Southern California markets, where our market is marked by peaks in March and April, as well as one later in the fall in October, which coincide with the numerous major music events that are hosted in the region, which brought in at least 850,000 visitors just last year. And earlier we mentioned how quickly the market recovered, and we can see here where that started to happen, which would be around the May area. And with 3 months already in the books, the first 3 months we've actually performed really well, just about where we were at the same time last year. And even with the positive start that RevPAR has had in 2024, there was still some room for improvement. So January and February RevPAR had a variance of $10 down from where they were in 2023. But similar to ADR for March, we were just about where we were at the same time last year, so around $140. So narrowing down into day of the week occupancy, weekdays have done a better job at closing the gap between 2019 levels. Weekends had a brief uptick in performance between 21 and 22, but have since declined. This decline might be due to an increase in supply that we covered in the first section, and then simultaneously there was a slight demand decline as well. So there's basically more supply that we need to close out. And ADR improved very consistently throughout the week in almost every year since 2020, which obviously marked the recent low. So weekends, or Saturday in specific, had a slight decrease between 2022 and 23. But the really interesting figure to point out here is that in typical lodging markets, Sundays are usually the cheapest day or the lowest performing day. But since coming out of COVID, Sundays are actually the best performing weekday, which you'll see here at 147 for the full year last year. And looking at RevPAR by day of the week, the ADR growth trend was also reflected here as well, with most days improving by around $20 to $25 compared to 2019. While weekends have slowed down in the last year, a consistent Monday through Thursday performance indicates that there is a steady demand for business travelers, such as groups, which kind of goes back to how Riverside is doing well with occupancy in the specific submarket. And Bianca will share a little bit more information as to the segmentation.
Absolutely. So thank you, Chuong. We will now go over the 3 segments, which are the transient, group, and contract. So group means that they have a reservation of 10 rooms or more, and contract guests are mostly airline crew members. So with the rise on business travel and conventions increasing, the group occupancy is improving since 2021. Transient guests had a spark in 2021. This is when the travel restrictions are being lifted. This is when Coachella came back, and also the revenge travel trend started. Starting from 2022, transient is slowing down. This may reflect that the revenge travel trend accelerates. And with the group occupancy picking up, group rate is performing better compared to transient after 2022, having a difference of $24 under ADR. Also, the contract guests are paying higher rates than 2022, one possibly because of the high inflation. And transit increased over 30% compared to pre-COVID level, and group rate is exceeding the pre-pandemic level too.
All right, thank you, Bianca. So to recap this section, we identified that Inland Empire has the reverse seasonality pattern of other traditional Southern California markets. So with peaks being in Q1 and Q3, weekends have mostly recovered since 2019, but they've been on the decline since 2022. And while transient travel is slowing down just a bit, at the same time, groups are coming back as well.
So now that we see their past and current performance, what are the developments that you can share with us to the market?
Yeah, so besides the Riverside Art Museum that was mentioned by Mr. Fitzgerald earlier, we wanted to highlight some really interesting projects that will kind of help build a better future for the market. So out in the arid lands of the Palm Desert, there is actually a surf renaissance taking place right now. So recently opened in 2024, the Palm Springs Surf Club was the first wave pool facility to open in Southern California. With its 21 acres, it does not offer any lodging facilities. In 2026, the 17-acre DSRT Surf Club will be also opening as well, but this one offering 92 hotel rooms and 83 residential villas. And while not being open to the public, the Thermal Club, which will be opening in 2025, it is a private residential development, but it will kind of help build that image of Palm Springs being the future of machine-crafted surf. And the region's major downtown development projects will be taking place in San Bernardino's Carousel Mall area, which will build infrastructure to benefit both locals and visitors alike. We aren't aware of any specific hotels that are going to be built in this area, since it is quite early in development, but this will be something to keep an eye on going forward. And last but not least, we have the Brightline West project, which will be investing $12 billion in building a high-speed rail between Rancho Cucamonga and Las Vegas, which will take passengers in between the two cities in 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's projected to open before the 2028 Olympics, but going forward, we're hoping that it's going to unlock another visitor market for the region.
Well, I would say the surf club is interesting, so it will be another reason why leisure travelers would come into Palm Springs.
Yeah, I'm really excited about those surf clubs. Bianca, can you give us an update as to how the hotel development is going to match up?
Absolutely. So earlier, we presented that the upscale and upper mid-scale had the highest occupancy in the market. So it is clear that the developers are responding to such a demand with very active development in the last 5 years. So currently in their pipeline, the mid-scale has the most hotel rooms in the construction phase, and the upper mid-scale has the most hotel rooms for the final planning and planning stage. And when we look at the active pipeline, which includes the properties in construction planning and final planning phase, on the current inventory, upper mid-scale is the second segment, and they continue to increase their supply, which makes about 47%. So where exactly are these pipeline hotels located? So Riverside has the most rooms in the construction, final planning and planning phase, and Palm Springs have the most unconfirmed, deferred, and abandoned. So Riverside is the second largest submarket by rooms, and it is where the casino and luxury outlets are located. So we continue to see strong development, which makes about 36% of the pipeline supply. This actually correlates with what Mr. Mike mentioned earlier, that there are developments coming to Riverside. So it would be a good thing that they are also increasing their supply for the lodging market. And looking into hotel companies, we have here our current supply. Marriott is the largest company having 32 brands. and we see that they have the highest market share in Inland Empire. So will Marriott, the question is, will Marriott continue to lead in the next years? So when we add the pipeline projects by 2030, the ranking of the parent companies remain the same, except for Marriott and Hilton. So Hilton will actually add the highest number of rooms, turning it into the hotel chain with the largest market share in Inland Empire. So what are the brands coming into the market? So Hilton, who has the most number of rooms in the pipeline. So we have here Home to Suites, an extended stay brand by Hilton, which will add 15 properties. Just this year, Hilton actually introduced a new extended stay brand, Live Smart Studios, and we are expecting to see 2 new properties in San Bernardino. Earlier, I mentioned most of luxury class hotels are independent. So now we are glad to see Montage is bringing 2 luxury property chain hotels to Palm Springs, which is the largest submarket. So when will the pipeline rooms open? The most number of room properties will open in 2026, which could be a great timing for the new developments that Chuong discussed earlier and also with the Riverside developments.
All right, so all in all, it looks like it's a really bright future ahead for the Inland Empire for hotels. The infrastructure projects that we discussed will really help build a better place for both locals and tourists, and will be accompanied by a lot of investment in that mid-tier scale. And then Hilton will eventually be taking the lead over Marriott to become the largest hotel company in the market.
So, Chuong, could you share with us what is the forecast for the Inland Empire market and what are your recommendations for our stakeholders?
Yeah, so CoStar only provided us with 1-year forecast data until the end of 2024. So we completed our own forecast for the next 4 years, and we're estimating a conservative 1.5% growth rate. And occupancy will take a bit of time to come back up, just because we're seeing demand kind of slowing down, but there's also still an investment in a pipeline that will increase that supply. But with that said, we expect ADR and RevPAR to be balancing that out, as we've seen in the past few years. As for our recommendations, we recommend our DMOs to really drive the marketing efforts to bring in more international markets or international guests, and to do so by collaborating with other markets such as LA, San Diego, Orange County, to kind of bring that in and promote Southern California as a whole, which seems to me like it's already well on the way with the China and Mexico targeting. And then also there's a really unique opportunity for the Inland Empire to build a strong destination brand by tapping into things that already exist in the market, such as outdoor tourism. There's so much stuff, there's so much space here going on. For our developers, we recommend assessing the feasibility of new mid-tier products, potentially with a lifestyle brand. So for examples, that would be, an example would be Moxie by Marriott or True by Hilton. There's also opportunities abound in the mountain resort areas if outdoor tourism is to be integrated into the operational model. And through our research, we did find that the Ontario airport had the lowest room count and the least active development pipeline. But if the airport can attract more international traffic, especially with the 2028 Summer Olympics, there's good potential in that submarket for growth. And for our owners, we recommend just updating facilities to meet the demands of leisure and business travelers. Potentially assess if automated services can be implemented into the operation. And then also monitoring market trends such as revenge travel, which has had a huge impact on our industry. Now last but not least, we really recommend managers to get creative in bringing in more weekend travelers and coming up with a package that will attract the leisure guests. So that would be guests who are traveling for business for one part of their stay and then leisure for the other half. And another thing to keep in mind is that with revenge travel diminishing, groups will be driving growth in the near future.
Well, thank you for the recommendations, Chuong. And thank you everyone